Chapter 20. The Dream of Inu Taisho, Sesshomaru's father. When they finally return to the village, Kagome has been asleep for 3 hours while resting up her strength after a long journey. It was now nighttime. Shippo and Rin were asleep in the futon bed together like siblings. Kagome woke up and found herself in the darkness. She looked around in confusion. She didn't know what was going on, but she heard a figure call out her name. Kagome saw a figure dressed like Sesshomaru's, in that he wore a white kimono and hakama, armored boots, and a long flowing sash, with the latter two suggestive of Chinese influence. He has breastplates with a spiked rim, with the addition of Chinese vambraces and armored gauntlets, as well as a layered spike pauldron on each shoulder. He wears a parted pelt that extends from both shoulders and trails behind him as he walks, representing the 2 streaks of fur running down the back of his demon form. Kagome began to speak to him. "Who are you?" "I am Inu Taisho, Sesshomaru's father." She blinked her icy blue eyes in shock. "So, you're Inuyasha's father too, right?" He nodded with a smile. "How did you get here?" "I'm a spirit from your dreams, young one. Every time you kept dreaming, you were calling me here," Inu Taisho said. Kagome was confused. "Wait, did I call you? I didn't call out your name." "Yes, you did, young one." "You can call me Kagome, Inu Taisho. There's nothing to be afraid of," Kagome said, smiling. "I wasn't afraid of your name, Kagome. You see, Sesshomaru did the mating ritual with you. That's why I'm here for you, to help you with what it means to be with a demon," Inu Taisho told the young priestess. "Is that why you brought me here?" Kagome asked curiously. He nodded. "Yes, but first, Kagome, I want to speak to you. It's more complicated than that. After Sesshomaru had lost his ability and strength by your tragic love, your spiritual powers had given him more power than the other demons. He has his present aura back. It's because you were no longer being cursed by the Dark Priestess Tsubaki." "So, does it mean Sesshomaru and I are back together after the tragic time I had?" Inu Taisho nodded again. "Of course, Kagome. Your curse has been broken after you and Sesshomaru learned the truth of Kikyo, who put an enchantment on my other son Inuyasha to kill you, and to take the other half of your soul. To my point of view, Kikyo wasn't good for Inuyasha. I would say I don't like her at all, because she'll never give Inuyasha a chance by speaking to her." "I agree with you, Inu Taisho. Kikyo is not the right person for Inuyasha," Kagome pointed out. "Ayame was the right one for Inuyasha. I hope he and Ayame will stick together and have pups." Inu Taisho chuckled as he crossed his arms across his chest, and he smirked at this. Kagome chuckled back. "They will one day, but I gotta admit it, Ayame has a crush on Inuyasha." "Yes, she does." "So Kagome, after Kikyo was sent back to the dead, and your soul was brought back, you and Sesshomaru are now together, and you are no longer under Tsubaki's control," he said as Kagome began to feel what he was saying. "Thank you, Inu Taisho, for telling me this. Am I too powerful then for Tsubaki's curse?" Kagome questioned him. "You are stronger than Tsubaki. You have your pure and kind heart, Kagome," Inu Taisho said as he stood beside her with a kind smile. "Listen well, Kagome. I want you to take care of Sesshomaru and Inuyasha for me. I know that Sesshomaru has changed. He had a dark heart covered by hatred. But, lucky for Rin, she also has changed him into who he is now. I just want to make sure Sesshomaru is taken care of. By the way, Kagome, I thought Inuyasha and you were good together." Kagome smiled at him, placing her hands on her hips. "That's okay, Inu Taisho. Inuyasha and I are still good friends, but he just didn't love me the way I loved him. As for Sesshomaru, I'll take care of him and I will always love him. But I promise I'll take care of Inuyasha as well." The demon dog chuckled with a smile. "Thank you, Kagome. I'm glad to hear it. Now you can wake up." Kagome slowly opened her eyes and saw Sesshomaru laid beside her while falling asleep on the futon bed. She smiled at this and went back to sleep, although she told herself in her thoughts that she will be a good wife for Lord Sesshomaru. Chapter 21. The Young Lady of the Western Land. Sesshomaru felt at peace while traveling in the country. He flies in the sky during the night towards the beautiful full moon. Although, he always likes standing on the cliff and staring at the full moon. He wasn't feeling too cold because he was a demon. He swiftly landed on the ground and stared at those bright stars and the moon. He felt the wind blow with the warmest breeze. He softened his golden eyes a bit. He stared at Kaede's village while the wind kept blowing away. Sesshomaru! It was Kagome who called out his name. Sesshomaru saw her running towards him, waving at him with her bare hand. Kagome? What are you doing here? Sesshomaru asked her. It's Rin. She isn't very well, Kagome said in a panic that made his eyes go wide. What happened to her? Kagome glanced away and tipped her fingers with a sweat drop. Well, I checked Rin out, but she wasn't very well, so I took her to Kaede's, she told the full-fledged demon dog. Kaede told me that Rin has the flu. Sesshomaru softened his eyes again with a worried look on his face. Rin. Will she be okay, Kagome? She will, I promise. Kagome promised to him as she embraced him softly. Sesshomaru blinked as the scent hit his nose. He stopped embracing her and smelled the unfamiliar scent. Kagome noticed that Sesshomaru was suddenly quiet and stiff. Sesshomaru? What's wrong? Kagome asked, concerned. I smell blood. It must be from the western land, he said as he pointed towards the land of fields and even the big trees. Sesshomaru began to follow the scent as Kagome quickly grabbed his tail. They flew in the field until they arrived near the mountains. I sense the Jill shard over there, Kagome said, pointing at it where the scent of blood came from. There's also a demonic aura as well, Sesshomaru said, narrowing his eyes. Let's go see who it is, Kagome replied as she and Sesshomaru led the way to the smell of the blood trail. They passed by all the bushes and the trees until they arrived near the edge of the clearing. They saw a group of 4 demons surrounding a female demon dog like Sesshomaru's form. Give us the Jill shards, you worthless female dog, a demon said angrily. Curse you! I need it for my children! They're sick! A female demon dog roared in a weak voice, swinging her bare claws at them. Sesshomaru declared that the demon dog is a female. Kagome didn't know that the female has pups, but why did she need the shards for them? She knew the shards could cause something unfortunate to happen. Sesshomaru suddenly flies towards them and is about to attack them with his demon form. When he transformed himself into a giant beast, he attacked them with his long claws and his giant fangs. He roared as he slashed the 4 demons into pieces to rescue the female dog. Kagome watched the 2 against 4 as she quickly ran towards them. She stopped where the 4 demons had been slaughtered, and the 2 demon dogs turned back into their human forms. Suddenly, Kagome met a beautiful pale-skinned demon with long white hair and golden eyes like Sesshomaru's. She wore a blue and white kimono and a dark blue outer wrap that had a fur pelt, which wrapped around her chest. Sesshomaru widened his eyes in shock a bit. Isabo? Big brother Sesshomaru, it's been a long time, hasn't it? Isabo said with a kind smile. He nodded. It has been. Kagome's icy blue eyes gone widened. Big brother Sesshomaru? Sesshomaru, I want to thank you for saving me from the demons, Isabo said. Sesshomaru nodded in response. Wait, Kagome interrupted, walking towards them. She first looked at Sesshomaru's face. Sesshomaru, I didn't know you had a sister. Why didn't you tell me? He sighed at this. It's a very long story, Kagome. I'll tell you later. Isabo glanced at Kagome, who was standing beside her brother. So, Sesshomaru, who is this young human girl? This is Kagome. She's my mate. Sesshomaru introduced her, looking over his shoulder at Kagome. She blinks in a bit of shock. I see. So this one is your human mate, I presume? Sesshomaru nodded. You can call me Kagome if you want, Miss Isabo, Kagome said with a kind smile. Very well, Kagome, Isabo replied with her eyes closed. Tell me, the jewel shards that you had in your hands, why do you need it for your pups? Sesshomaru questioned her. I didn't know my sister had pups of her own, he thought in his head. Because these Jill shards will help my 2 pups to regain their strengths in order to get rid of the sicknesses they have, Isabo told her older brother. Kagome took a step forward. That's not good, Isabo. And why not? Because the Jill shards were tainted by evil. It will cause your children to be abducted by the shards. Perhaps I'll heal your pups. It's the only way to purify the shards, Kagome said. I see. So you're a priestess, are you not? Isabo questioned her. Kagome nodded. Yes, I am. I'm a priestess who can purify the Jill shards and even heal them with my own power. If the shards were tainted by pure evil, I'll have to purify them with my spiritual powers. Will you do that to my children? You're not going to hurt them, are you? Isabo asked her in a worried tone. Don't worry, I won't purify them in the dust. I can heal them from the pure evil shards, Kagome said, smiling. Isabo began to smile softly. I accept your help, but first things first, let's all go to my castle. I have hidden my 2 children inside. They nodded as they began to fly off. Kagome grabbed Sesshomaru's big fluffy tail and held onto it tightly. From Isabo's point of view, she smiled at Kagome's offer. She seems interested and impressed with Kagome's spiritual power. Here it is, my very own castle, Isabo said as she and the other 2 walked towards the western castle. Kagome thought her castle looked so beautiful while staring at it. When they arrived in the throne room, they watched Isabo sit in the big throne chair as she looked down at her brother and his human mate. Isabo, where are your children now? Kagome asked as she hoped to find them. Isabo looked over her shoulder and saw the 2 pups of hers were playing together in the garden. They're outside playing in the garden, she told Kagome, pointing at them. Kagome and Sesshomaru saw the 2 demon kids running around in the garden. Kagome spotted the young boy with black raven and golden eyes. It seemed like he was different from the other demons. Was he supposed to be a half-demon or something? Does Isabo's mate have black hair like his? Her son was a full-fledged demon after all. She also spotted the little girl around Rin's age with white hair and golden eyes. She has 2 blue marks on her cheeks like Isabo's. She must be the younger sister of her older brother. Kagome knew she was the same full-fledged demon dog. Kagome knew her children didn't look too sick at all. Isabo got off the throne chair and introduced them. Kagome, I want you to meet my pups. This is my son, Kazuki, and my younger daughter, Suki. What does your son look like? Was he a full-fledged demon dog too? Kagome asked, pointing at the young boy. Isabo sighed at this. Kazuki was different from the others. He has 2 species, and he was still a demon dog like one of our kind. To tell you the truth, he was the hell beast, and he was still different from her species. My daughter, Suki, is still a full-fledged demon dog, which means she's normal. Sesshomaru walked towards them. Who's the father, Isabo? Who did you mate after you had those 2 pups of yours? She glanced down sadly. Their father died a long time ago after Suki was born. We're sorry for your loss, Sesshomaru murmured. Kagome sighed at this. Well, Isabo, we need your Jill shards so I can help heal your children. It's the only way to restore the Jill to be completed again. Isabo sighed, pulling the shards out of her pocket, handing them to Kagome. Well, I tried to keep my pups safe from the illness they have, but I want to thank you all for your help. Kagome smiled at her kindly. No problem, Isabo. I'll do my best to help your children stay healthy. When she purified it with her hands, the shards were instantly purified. She took out her small bottle of the Jill shards underneath her pocket and placed them inside. Within an hour, Kagome healed the 2 pups of hers with her healing spiritual powers. After taking Suki's turn, it was Kazuki's turn. She placed her bare hand on his forehead and healed him quickly. Sesshomaru watched Kagome healing him with the spiritual power. He felt his niece was sitting next to him as she gave him a friendly smile with laughter. Sesshomaru smiled back at her. He thought he would be a great uncle to Suki and Kazuki. Isabo was very happy to see her own older brother spending time with her children. Sesshomaru, after Kazuki is healed, I'll let you look after my pups. It's been a while since we last saw each other, Isabo said with a kind smile. He nodded in response, turning his head and watching over his mate. Suki suddenly pulled Sesshomaru's hair. He looked at her as she was playing with his hair and his big tail. Isabo glanced at her daughter. "Suki, be careful of pulling Uncle Sesshomaru's hair. Don't pull his hair too hard," she told her as she softened her golden eyes. "I won't, Mother," Suki said, still playing with it. 5 minutes later, Kazuki was instantly healed by Kagome's spiritual power. One of the demon dogs noticed something strange about Kazuki. His heart was purified by Kagome's purity and kindness. Kazuki seemed to notice as well. "Lady Kagome? Did I die?" Kazuki asked her worryingly. Kagome shook her head with a kind smile. "Of course not, Kazuki. You're fully healed. So you and your sister won't be using the shards again." Kazuki began to smile at her. After this, he ran towards his mother and hugged her waist. Isabo giggled as she hugged back. When they stopped hugging for a second, Isabo gave her a kind smile. "Kagome, thank you for healing them. I'm glad to have someone to help me take care of them," Isabo said. Kagome bowed down to her. "It's my pleasure, Isabo." Isabo spun around and looked at Sesshomaru. "Sesshomaru, I'm impressed of your human mate. I'm happy that you've chosen her. Father would be very proud of you for protecting this young priestess. I hope you and Kagome will be fine mates." "We will, and thank you, Isabo," Sesshomaru said with a small smile. "We were planning to get married over the sakura tree. Would you like to come to our wedding?" Kagome asked her with a smile. Isabo nodded. "I would love to, Kagome. I'll bring my children with me as well. I hope you'll be the best aunt in the whole wide world." Kagome chuckled with a blush. "Thanks, Izzy." "Izzy?" Isabo blinked in shock. "I thought Izzy would suit you. It's your nickname. I hope you like it," Kagome said. Isabo gave her a soft smile. "All right. Well, stay safe and take care of Sesshomaru for me." Kagome nodded. "I will." Chapter 22. To heal the sickness. After they returned to the village, they heard a sudden cough. They entered Kaede's village and found Rin laid on the futon with a blush across her face. Kaede sat beside her, taking care of this young girl. They saw Rin giving them a weak smile. "Lord Sesshomaru, Kagome, you guys came back," Rin said weakly. "Hi, Rin. I just brought Sesshomaru back to the village to see how you're doing," Kagome said with a kind smile. Rin coughed, covering her mouth with her bare hands. Kaede placed her hand on her forehead to feel the temperature she has. Kaede knew that Rin was extremely hot, and she even had a cold. "Rin has a cold," Kaede told them. "Oh no, that's not good. That means she has a fever," Kagome said in a worried tone voice. "I never would have guessed Rin was sick," Sesshomaru said. "Oh, I have something in my yellow supplies backpack," Kagome exclaimed, pointing it out. Sesshomaru blinked. "Really? What do you have?" "I'll show you, Sesshomaru," Kagome said as she and Sesshomaru got up and walked out of the hut. They went to the other hut, where she has put her yellow backpack in the corner of the wall. Sesshomaru watched her, searching for the supplies in this bag. She pulled out the bag of tea and the mug cup. Ayame appeared out of nowhere when she saw her making the tea. She walked in and asked them, "Hey guys, what are you making?" she asked them curiously. "I'm making the tea because Rin has a fever," Kagome said, smiling. Sesshomaru nodded with agreement. "Oh no, does she have a fever? Poor Rin. But can I join you? I wanted to make the tea as well," Ayame said. Kagome nodded. "Of course you can." "I'll go watch over Rin," Sesshomaru said as he headed back to Kaede's hut. "Okay," Kagome said. Ayame smiled as she joined, helping her make some tea for Rin. Within 10 minutes, Ayame began to grab a bowl from Kagome's yellow backpack and put water in it. The tea was finally done, but Ayame had put something in it. It was a lavender flower that will help Rin feel better. The girls walked back to Kaede's hut, where Rin continued to lay there. "What's this, Kagome?" Rin asked, pointing at the mug that Kagome was carrying. "It's a tea. It will help you with that fever," Kagome told her. "Yeah, those herbs and lavender flower will help make your fever go away," Ayame said, smiling. "Besides, you do love flowers after all." Rin smiled at them. Kagome passed it to Rin carefully. She took a sip of the tea and started to smile at them. Kagome knew she was enjoying it as she continued to sip the tea. She gave Kagome the empty mug, then Ayame placed the towel on Rin's forehead. "Thank you, Kagome and Ayame," Rin said, smiling. You're welcome, Rin, Kagome said. After this, Rin began to fall into a deep slumber. Sesshomaru smiled at this when he was glad Kagome was helping her. Kaede was surprised. Kagome must be a great helper who helps take care of this child. Sesshomaru walked towards Kagome. Kagome, thank you for healing Rin. Kagome smiled kindly. You're welcome, she said as she kissed him on his left cheek. Ayame blushed as she looked away, exclaiming quietly. Kaede chuckled as she noticed Ayame wanted them to have some space alone. 1 week later, and Rin's fever was finally gone. Kagome and Ayame had taken care of Rin's fever within a week. Kaede always looked after Rin as well. She thought Kagome was such a great healer, and so was Ayame. Although Ayame was just a white demon wolf princess. It doesn't bother her. She was just the old priestess who always looked after the villagers, even Kagome and her friends. Kaede saw Rin getting up from the futon and feeling better from a fever. How are you feeling, Rin? She asked her, smiling at her kindly. Did your fever disappear? Rin nodded happily. Yes, Kaede, I'm feeling better. Now I'm gonna go outside and play with Shippo and Master Jokin. Kaede chuckled. That's good to hear, Rin. I hope Kagome and Lord Sesshomaru will be happy to see you as well.